So when I'm talking about the disappointing players of 2018, I'm not going to include anyone who had an injury, so Gordon Hayward and those type of guys. The players that we're going to see in this video are the guys who were healthy this season and were expected to be out there, and they just simply were not good. They didn't play up to their expectations. So now let's dive into it. Now the player you're seeing on your screen is Jimmy Butler, but he's not the disappointing player of the T-Wolves. But I do want to say that once Jimmy Butler came over, there was kind of a hierarchy that developed with these guys in terms of the options on the team, who gets the most shots and all that. And it seems like Andrew Wiggins, to me, as now the third option, has not totally been the best fit. Defensively, he still really hasn't made any improvements. Maybe marginal ones at best, but his off-ball defense is still pretty suspect. And then offensively, like, sure, Wiggins can get buckets. He puts up like 23 a game, and I will give him credit. He's been a little better since Jimmy Butler's been out. But it seems like Wiggins' value as a player really comes from just being able to get his own shots off. His playmaking has really never improved. It's been basically the same throughout his career, and given how far he is into said career at this point, it is a little alarming, I guess. And another thing is his tendency with mid-range jump shots. Between all the shots that he attempts, I believe mid-rangers are the most frequent with him, and a lot of them are isolations and slowing down the offense, and it just kills the entire flow of the team when the guy just wants to shoot some 16-foot shot with like 13 seconds left in the shot clock. I mean, that type of basketball was left in like 2005, you know? Now next we have Andre Iguodala, and what you're actually seeing right now is Iguodala from a couple of years ago when he was great for the Warriors. Part of this is because I want to give you some context, but also because he's one of my favorite players ever, and it breaks my heart to put him on here, so I want to remind myself of the good days a little bit. I think Iguodala was one of those guys who made the Warriors roster so well-rounded, just because he could fit into the offense really well. Like, he was okay with just shooting maybe 4 or 5 times a game, but he could do everything else in terms of making plays for others, grabbing rebounds, and then being one of, if not the best, perimeter defenders in the NBA, especially towards his first 2 years with the Warriors, I would say. However, I don't want to focus on that too long because we have to get to why he's actually in this video, which is this season Iguodala has been pretty rough. His offensive game has become almost a non-factor. His turnovers are through the roof, as his percentage is up to around 16%, where he was able to keep it under control the past couple of seasons, so you can't put the ball in his hands as often, and then his three-point shot has fallen completely off of a cliff. I mean, he was always never that great from outside, but he was able to make it work with the Warriors because he could get wide-open looks. He's not making in anything, and I do fear that that could be a real problem for them in the postseason. Next we have Jalil Okafor, traded from Philadelphia to Brooklyn this season, where the Nets acquired a second-round pick. I mean, everything I'm going to tell you about Okafor is not breaking news. I mean, you know what I'm going to say. The rebounding is bad. The low post game is pretty much all he has really going for him. And even if he can score there sometimes, it really slows down the offense, even more so than it does with Andrew Wiggins on the T-Wolves. And to give you a number, the Brooklyn Nets, their pace when Okafor is not in the game is around 100. When he is in the game, it's at 95. That's really slow. And then, of course, the pick-and-roll defense is bad. Don't even ask him to switch onto a perimeter dude. His general awareness isn't the best. But the reason why he's on here is because I wanted to believe that in a new place like Brooklyn, he would be able to figure some of this out. His net rating is minus 24. So pretty much the moment he gets in there, the Nets are the worst team in the NBA. Now, does this mean that he should be completely written off? I mean, no, I definitely would not give him a generous contract in free agency. The Clippers mascot's freaking me out a little bit. But there is still some value there for him as a low post scorer, and if he can just figure the other things out enough. But if you were expecting him to turn it around in Brooklyn and show some signs under Kenny Atkinson in his first stint there, it definitely did not happen. Another one of my favorite players, Jae Crowder, who I really praised when the Cavaliers acquired him because I said, oh yeah, he can defend a few positions and he can shoot threes and all that stuff. And he really wasn't able to do either with the Cavs. Now, I know he did have the situation in the offseason where his mother did pass away, but that doesn't change the fact that he really was not good for Cleveland at all. I mean, the three-pointers really haven't gone in all season, and then the intensity and just the quickness as a defensive player was gone. It seemed like he was a little heavier, and his general awareness just from where it was on the Celtics was not there at all, and the Cavaliers really needed that because what's been their problem for like 4 years now is their defense, right? They just don't have enough guys who can defend, especially around the power forward position, because the Warriors are like the team that Cleveland is always worried about. Now you can put Houston into that as well, and it seemed like Crowder was going to be able to help that out, and he really hasn't been able to do it. Now, I do think some of it was because Crowder needs to be in a system. I think we're seeing with Utah now that he's making a bigger impact. His defensive rating has been very good for them, and he's in one particular lineup that has a net rating that's like overwhelmingly positive. But in terms of his stint with the Cavaliers, it was a pretty big disappointment. And funny enough, I was completely wrong on everything when it came to that Kyrie Irving trade, so that's cool. Now you're seeing Salah Mejri on your screen. He has not been disappointing this season, but he is related to the other guy on the Mavericks who's been very disappointing, because Mejri has been willing to just do what Rick Carlisle tells him and play within himself and not get too crazy. You can't really say the same thing for Nerlens Noel, who bet on himself by declining a very nice contract by the Mavericks, and now who knows what he's going to get in free agency. I mean, look, can you say that Rick Carlisle has maybe been a little too stubborn with Nerlens? Yeah, I think that's fair, but you can't act like Nerlens was actually good in the minutes that he's been provided. The Mavericks are a worse team when he's in the game. His defensive everything has been just kind of bad. Because he's skinny as hell, he can't defend the low post, so you can just muscle him all the time. His rebounding, I think, is a little suspect. And the thing that he was supposed to be great at, which was pick-and-roll defense and just kind of flying around the floor, he hasn't been able to do that as well. And then offensively, he hasn't even finished around the basket that well. He's around like league average at finishing, which for a big man really isn't that special. So overall, Nerlens, you know, it is what it is. So those are some disappointing players for you. I believe we got 5 in there. And we'll see Nerlens get scored on by Nurkic one more time. And actually, one more thing, a new podcast in the description. My thoughts on Markelle Fultz and his return. And then AMC's new horror show, The Terror. Talking about the first 2 episodes of that one.